Yo, what up guys? It's your boy, the foodie filmmaker, coming at you with yet another video. All right, so today's video was supposed to be a podcast episode. However, I forgot a couple of the things that I need in order to create the full podcast experience. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that today. However, I still want to give you guys some value. I still want to deliver something for you guys. So today I'm going to be doing something that I've never done before. So the way it's going to work is that today is going to be sort of a masterclass. So I'm going to teach you guys exactly what I feel that you need as a content creator in order for you to get started, in order to take you from maybe a beginner content creator who just started, who's looking to, really get into this and really do whatever they need to do in order to become great as a food content creator. Or perhaps you're intermediate, right? So you already started, you already have some experience, but you want to get even better, right? You want to take your skills, you want to take your experience to the next level. So what I'm going to be doing here is that I'm going to be sharing with you my experiences, and I'm going to be showing you exactly some strategies that you can apply today after watching this entire masterclass, so that you can apply it into your journey wherever it is that you are right now and make yourself better and improve and really take yourself to the next level, achieve your goals, whatever it is that you have in mind with food content creation. And of course, if you're not a food content creator, but you're still here, you're still watching my content, you're a fan, I'm pretty sure you'll still take some value as a content creator, because I'm sure that wherever you are, whatever industry you're in, I'm sure that, you're creating content some way, somehow you're creating. And so, as a content creator, it's always good just take some tips, take something with you that you can apply today. So this is what we're going to do. This is my first time. I'm actually a little bit nervous because I've never really done this, and there's going to be absolutely no edits. So what you're going to watch right now is going to be straight from beginning to end. I'm just going to upload it the way that it is. No cuts, no nothing, because this is supposed to be like a masterclass. So it's something that I do plan to do this like live. I do plan to have maybe a 4 or 5 people really coming into a room, and I'm gonna, share my masterclass with those individuals, really get one-on-one. So that's something that I plan to do later down the road. But for now, we're going to do something in a more video format where I'm just going to share this with you guys. I'm going to do it in a standing format. Here we are. We're still in the podcast room. And hopefully, maybe, if people like this kind of stuff, maybe we do more like this video type masterclasses until there is actually time for me to book a few people to come through. And then if you would like to be one of those people, please let me know. But yeah, so I plan to have a room, have a couple people, and then we can share a really powerful masterclass like that. But yeah, so there's something I came up with on the spot. I was like, let's just make it happen. Let's take advantage of the fact that, we already booked this room. So here we go. Now I do gotta let you know that I did use I did use AI. I did use ChatGPT to help me out a little bit with the thinking and really laying everything out, because I have so many ideas. I have so many things that I could talk about, and if I don't really organize that, if I don't have at least an outline or at least some sort of idea of what I'm going to be talking about, then everything's going to be all over the place. So I'm trying to make this as effective as possible so that you guys take as much value as possible within the time frame that we're here together, me and you. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the masterclass. Welcome to Lewis's first masterclass of the foodie filmmaker. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's go ahead and get into it. So let's get into it. So content creation, right? You're trying to be a content creator, or maybe you already are. So you're already involved in this. You're already creating content, whether it's through photos, through videos, or any other form of content. That's pretty much the content that I do as a content creator, but it's with food and drinks as well, and everything restaurant. I do a little bit of lifestyle too. And I have dabbled with other industries as well as far as content creation goes, but food content creation is the one that I spent the most time with. But eventually, with food, you eventually cross over to other other sectors. So eventually you get to experience the other sectors as well. You kind of have to create content within that. Sometimes there's like events where like there's a lot of food people coming through. There's other influencers coming through. There's other vendors. There's like lots of restaurants, a lot of food, and so you gotta be able to manage that. And so that's like a whole different way of creating content in of itself. So hopefully you learn some of that in here. But yeah, so here's the first thing I want to talk about. Let's talk about like eye-catching shots. So really capturing shots with your phone. So as you can see, I use my iPhone 15 to capture most of my shots. I have used other phones in the past, such as the Google Pixel 7 Pro, and I've used DSLR camera. It was a Canon camera, and I've used other phones as well. And so let me tell you that most people are using their phone, and that's because it's very easy, like the convenience of being able to use the phone, the convenience of being able to shoot like on the spot. Sometimes you're not prepared. Sometimes, you're out about in your day, and everybody's got to eat, right? So as a food content creator, you're trying to capture as much food content as you can. So, you're eating throughout the day, whether, you're working a normal job or whether you're doing this like me, like full time, you're always out and about, and at some point you're going to have to eat. And so carrying around your phone, obviously you're already going to do that because, you got other stuff on your phone besides just having a really powerful camera in there. So being able to use the camera on your phone is already a plus. It's already amazing that you already have it there with you. And we got to really thank these companies such as Apple and Google and all these other companies that are creating phones, that are able to create phones with very powerful cameras that we can now do things like these, like create content with them. So when you're creating content with the phone, don't feel like, you're creating cheap content or that the content is not going to be that well just because it's shot on the phone. Trust me, there's a lot of people that have seen my content and they're like, wow, like what camera do you use? And I tell them that it's a phone and they're very surprised. They're like, oh my God, I can't believe that you're actually using a phone because the quality looks like it's not from a phone. It looks like it's coming from an actual camera. And the thing is that, you do have to obviously put in the right settings when you're using your camera, but also, it also matters right after the fact when you're actually in the editing stage, when you color grade, when you make sure everything looks sharp, everything looks good, colorful, making sure that everything is coming together real nicely. And so here's the thing, so when you're shooting with the phone, obviously always you want to be shooting at I recommend shooting in HD at 60 frames per second just because I like to sometimes slow the footage down because it kind of looks cool. You create that variation as far as like the shots go. So that's one way to really keep it, keep it different while the video's running. So you can have your normal shots and then you can have shots that are more slow motion. Then of course, you can have close-up shots where you get really close to the food and that makes it kind of really nice. You can pan around the food. So, you go all around it. And that creates kind of a really like a slow-mo kind of suspenseful moment where, the person gets to admire the food. And also when you're closing up, close up in a spot that's really appealing to see, though, obviously don't slow motion a spot where it's not very appealing to the eye. You want to do that slow-mo where, it's really like, it's a really nice shot. So the way that I really like to see it is that, every time you're shooting, whatever shot that you choose to use, always consider, is this shot also good as a picture? Like if I were to take a picture right now, would this shot look good as a picture as well? And so really when you do that, you really start to consider if like when you're shooting the video, if this is going to look good as a picture or not, is it a good shot or not? So that's what I really like to do. And like I said, shoot at HD, 60 frames per second. Of course, you can shoot in 4K as well, and 4K looks great as well. However, you do gotta keep that in mind that you keep the 4K all along the way when you're exporting your video, when you're done editing with it as well. And make sure your settings on Instagram as well are set to upload to the highest quality. That way you're able to maintain that level of quality out throughout the way, and you don't lose that quality, because that's the worst thing that could happen. You know, you shoot in 4K, and somewhere along the way, maybe throughout the editing stage in the editing app, you export at 60. You export in HD, and so now you've lost the 4K that you've used in the beginning. So make sure you just keep that in mind if you're going to be shooting at 4K. Also keep in mind that when you're shooting in 4K, it does take up more space from your phone. So just keep that in mind. You know, whatever storage you have on your phone, just make sure that, keep it in mind that the 4K will take up more space. However, if you're able to afford that space, if you're able to, you know, keep that in mind, throughout your filming, then you should be just fine. But, yeah, and if you're going to be shooting at 4K, try to do 4K at 60 as well. If your phone doesn't have that, because it's one of the more older iPhone models, then you can always stick with 4K at 60. I mean, 4K at 30. And if you just don't have 4K in your iPhone, then you could always stick to HD. HD is going to be just fine. And then you can always, you know, color grade it and do all the editings afterwards, which is, like I said, what I do. And I actually shoot in HD. So, you know, a lot of people think that I shoot in 4K and that I'm shooting these really crazy things, right? But the truth is that I'm not. You know, I'm shooting in 4K, and that's basically what you're seeing right now as well. Shooting in HD right now at 60, and this looks just perfectly fine. This is cinematic mode, obviously, because I'm currently like just that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just talking right now. But if I was shooting food, of course you could shoot in cinematic. However, if you shoot in cinematic, just keep in mind that you can't go to 60 frames per second. You will be stuck at the 30, so you won't have that option of slow-mo. However, if you just decide that you don't want to use slow-mo, or that slow motion is not really one of the things that you want to do when you're creating your content, then using cinematic mode at 30 frames per second should be just fine. But it does give it that cool look where, you know, cinematic, it makes it kind of seem like you're using a more higher end camera at the end of the day, which is cool. Like I said, if you want to give your video that effect, you know, there's always that option. I personally don't like to use it as much, just because I feel like it's not really at that level yet. I could tell the difference when somebody is using cinematic mode and when somebody is using a professional DSLR camera. And there is those noticeable differences, because the iPhones are actually using software in order to mimic the same effect, the same bokeh effect, the same depth of field that a DSLR would. So it's not really genuine. It's not really the real deal, you see, because the DSLRs actually use a powerful lens, which is why they're so expensive. But those lenses are creating a real depth of field. That's why it looks so nice, so clean when you're shooting a DSLR, as opposed to the iPhone. The iPhone is using software that's mimicking that same effect, which, like I said, it does a decent job. And right now the latest models have been improving it as well. So it is getting better. But at the end of the day, it's not the real deal. However, if that's not really a concern to you, like I said, we're all content creators here, and we all kind of, see the world differently, and we all decide to create a certain way. So if that's a style that you like and that you prefer and that you think that it looks cool with the way that you shoot, then please, by all means, keep that style, and I'm sure that it's gonna look great. I personally, like I said, I try not to use it as much. I've used it before, and I use it here and there, when I feel like it may be cool, but like I said, it's not really a thing. But you have these options as a content creator in order to give that variety to your content. So we spoke about the close-up, we spoke about if you have the option to use your wide lens, ultra wide lens, then that's also a good way to kind of highlight the entire restaurant. Maybe if the place is really busy, then you can use your ultra wide shots in order to capture like how full the place is. You can highlight like, hey, a lot of people come here, a lot of people vibe, a lot of people like to come through and like have conversations and stuff. And so something I like to do is, you can highlight that by showing an ultra shot, by showing like everybody, having fun, having a good time, and then using a close-up shot to kind of get like really close and get people's facial expressions and get people like eating and enjoying and really, enjoying their food, enjoying the vibe, enjoying the time that they're there. And that really that combination of shots really creates a really nice scenery. And so, So yeah, so you have that option as well. And then of course you have like the normal shots, which is like your normal, your normal lens, your standard lens, your 1x lens, which is probably the one they're going to be using the most. So that's the one that you really want to make sure that, that it looks good, it looks crisp. And yeah, and then, as far as like settings goes, like I said, HD, 30 frames per second, 60 frames per second. You can decide what you want to use with that. And as far as that goes, I think as far as like the phone, that's pretty much, what you want to do. Obviously, you have the option of adding a gimbal if you want to have more stable, footage. You can go ahead and purchase that. There's lots of gimbals out there. There's lots of, handheld, tripods that you can use in order to stabilize. They're not really stabilizers, but you can use it to stabilize your footage a little bit more so that you have a better grip on the phone. So you have that option as well. And then you have the option of just really having a lot of practice. So for me, like I don't use a gimbal just because I feel like it really restricts and it really prevents you from really having a really free-flowing experience with the phone when it comes to getting those shots. Like I like to flip my phone upside down sometimes. I'm pretty sure you've seen like some creators, like they shoot like this and they get their shots and then maybe they do things like this, like that, like that. So that's another thing to keep in mind as well when you're shooting. If you're going to be doing those kind of movements with the phone, then perhaps you might not want to use a gimbal, because the gimbal really restricts you from like, you could only pretty much stick to the movements that the gimbal uses, which, they're pretty cool. You get like those nice, like with like pants and stuff. So if you're really going for that, really super stable, really cinematic type of look where you're kind of shooting like maybe it's going to be like a professional shoot, I would really more towards lean towards that more, because it will give that look of like cinematic. You won't have that shaky camera at all. But for the most part, I like to keep myself handheld because I think it's just good enough. Plus the phones do come with stabilization software, so it will help you out regardless. Like even if you do shake a little bit, the software itself, if it's very little shakiness, the software here in the iPhone will correct that for you, and it'll give you a really nice clean experience, and it'll make it seem like you never shook in the first place. So you pretty much don't have to use the gimbal, because it will do that for you. There's also stabilization software that you can use in the editing apps as well. Now, I've used those before, and sometimes they do a good job, but sometimes they don't. So I wouldn't necessarily rely on those too much unless the shaking is very minimal, where it's still kind of savable. But if the shaking is a little too much, where it's like it looks like it's just all over the place, like I don't think the software itself is going to do a very good job. And like at that point, I would just recommend just shooting the whole thing all over again, which is another thing that I want to let you guys know, that if for some reason when you're you're at the shooting spot, you're at whatever, you're shooting wherever you're shooting, right? If you're shooting and then you see that your shot, not that I do this all the time, but sometimes there's shots where like, they're a little bit complex, or maybe it's the first time that I shoot that way, or maybe I have a specific vision as far as like, I want this shot to look this way. Now, obviously, sometimes not all the shots are like that. Obviously, you have your standard shots. Like I said, you go in, you take a shot of the place, take a shot of the sign, the name of the restaurant, maybe, take a shot of the spread, whatever you're getting, right? So you have your standard shots, right? The shots that you normally get all the time. You go to every restaurant and you get these shots all the time, right? And then you have the shots where there's specific shots where like, I want to get a shot like this, this specific movement and stuff like that. So when you're getting a shot like that, I highly recommend that you look it over. So once you're done shooting that, make sure you go on your phone, you go in your gallery, and you check that the shot was shot properly the way that you wanted it to shoot it. Because if you don't, then there is that chance that perhaps, you messed up somewhere, or that doesn't look good. And so when you get a chance to look back at it, you can check to see if it's good or not. And if it is good, then obviously, you move on to your next shot. But if it's not, make sure that you do fix it there. And you have to be really honest with yourself. Please be honest with yourself. All right. If the shot does not look good, shoot it again. Just shoot it again. All right. Though I've seen this many times, and I've done this myself as well, where, you look at it and you're like, hey, you know what? It's all right. I'll fix it back in the editing stage, right? And yes, sometimes some shots are savable in the editing stage, but some are just not. And you have to be really honest with yourself. You have to know what your capabilities are. You need to know what the capabilities of the editing software are, and then make a real assessment, a real executive decision to if you need to shoot that again or not. So you need to be honest, Be very honest with yourself. If you need to shoot it again, shoot it again. Don't be lazy, because trust me, the worst thing you need is that you tell yourself that you could save it in the editing stage, and then you're in the editing stage and, you spend 1 hour, 2 hours go by and you still cannot fix that shot. At that point, you start to realize that probably you should have just shot the whole damn thing again. So that's pretty much what you got to do there. So as far as like everything goes here, lighting. So obviously, if you're able to take advantage of good lighting already, like at the restaurant, then use that, obviously. But I always recommend carrying a phone. Excuse me. Let me I always recommend carrying an external light. So, a light that you can clip to your phone really quickly, because that will give you an advantage. That will kind of enhance the look of the food, and it will make it a lot easier when you're editing later and you're trying to edit and make your footage look crisp and everything. So when people see my footage, they see that it is nice, colorful, sharp, and all that stuff. That's because I used an external light. I use the light at the right time. That way, everything was properly lit. That way, when I'm able to go into the software, everything is looking good. Everything is like ready for me to go in there and edit it. However, if I didn't use the light, and everything would be looking a little bit dark. So then, when it's looking dark, then it's very hard for you to start to enhance everything, because then it starts to look a little grainy, because there is no room for you to expand upon that, because it was already dark to begin with. Not everything was vibrant. Not everything was looking good to begin with. So then if you're trying to enhance the brightness, you're trying to enhance the saturation, you're trying to enhance all these things, it's very hard for the software to really enhance that for you in a really nice way. However, if you use the light, it's able to capture every single thing really nicely lit, and it's able to capture like all the details of whatever it is that you're capturing. Is able to capture the right colors, because everything is lit, everything is properly shown, and so your camera sensors are able to pick up all the information, all the data of the food properly. That way you're able to edit it later. But if you don't do that, then the software is going to do its best, but it's not going to do the best job. So you need to keep that in mind when you're using the light. That's one reason you want to use the light. But the other reason you want to use the light is just because you want to you're showcasing food at the end of the day. So you want to be able to highlight every single piece of the food like really nicely, especially if you're getting those close-up shots, you're getting really close. You definitely need good lighting if you're going to be doing that, because a close-up shot that's dark, it does not look good. Trust me, I've shot dark content. My content used to be really dark when I first started, because I used to like the dark cinematic look to it. And while it might have looked cool, it looks like a movie, it looks like cinema and stuff like that, the food itself wasn't really popping. It wasn't really selling. The reason why it wasn't selling was because, it was dark. You couldn't really see like the food itself, like maybe you saw like the food a little bit, but then like it just looked like, like a movie, like, okay, that looked cool, but like I don't really want to go try it, because like you didn't get me to salivate, you didn't get me to drool, you didn't get me to get excited, get hungry. I was like, it's like I was watching a movie, and that was pretty entertaining and everything, but now I'm gonna go and do whatever it is that I was doing, or go on to do something else, and I'm not going to do that anymore. So lighting is extremely important because of those reasons. So make sure that you're always using lighting. Another thing you want to carry with you when you're out and about doing your content creation and stuff is always carry an external battery, because the thing is you're going to be shooting, throughout the day. Your phone will lose charge. So unless, of course, working a 9 to 5 or something, you're working at an office or something, that you have access to just having your phone plugged in all the time, the whole day, like I did at some point, then of course you probably don't need the external charger. But if you're going to be out and about, if this is your full-time gig, you're not really like, you're not really stable. You're not really like at one particular location for too long, because you're constantly moving around. Either you're shooting the whole entire day, or perhaps you choose certain spots in order for you to edit it. Like most influencers, you guys know what I'm talking about, because if you're doing this full time, you probably don't spend your entire time at home editing. You're probably like out in a cafe or something, drinking some matcha, some coffee, something like that, around those lines, right? So you're out and about, you're trying to enjoy a nice, good setting, right? And so the last thing you want is to not have a power outlet, at your favorite matcha spot. So now what are you going to do? So having the portable charger, that really helps out, because now you can sit anywhere you want. You can go to the beach if you want to go and edit. Who cares? You can sit on the sand as long as you have a portable charger there. You can just be juicing up, and you could have your umbrella. You could be sitting down on the sand, and it's going to be all cool and nice. You can edit all you want right there while you have the waves of the ocean right in front of you. You get the sound of the ocean and stuff like that. Very relaxing, very inspiring. You can do something like that, but you can't really do that if you don't have the external charger with you, and you don't have that peace of mind that you have more power in case your phone does eventually die. And the thing is that because you're not only going to be using your phone, obviously, just for filming, use your phone to do other things as well. You're communicating with everybody else. You're on social media, use it for texting, use it for other apps, perhaps use it for work as well, outside of this content creation stuff. So your phone is kind of important. So you don't want it to die like in the middle of the day, and now you can't do anything, because now you lost access to pretty much all your people, because you can't communicate with them. Your phone's gone. You can't film anything. That's one of the worst things that can happen. Don't let it happen to you. So there's that. And other than that, I think we're pretty good. You see this little mic here. If you're going to be doing you probably do these at home, but perhaps, sometimes like me, I have to do the voiceovers like when I'm out and about, because sometimes I'm not home until at the end of the day. So, but I still need to upload a video, and it needs to have the voiceover. So I'm doing the voiceover like at the cafe, like I'm finding like a little corner over there where nobody's really there, or like the music's not really hitting on that side. So, it's a little bit quiet. So then I'm able to go over there, a little corner over there, and shoot my little voiceover, having a good mic like this. It's a DJI mic. But if you're able to get like anything, they have a little mic right here, actually. You can get something like this as well. These are pretty good too. That's I actually thought it was the Rode, but it's not. Oh yeah, it is the Rode. Yeah, it is the Rode. So those are pretty good as well. I've seen a lot of YouTubers and a lot of people who do voiceovers. They use the Rode, and that was a really good mic. But yeah, so either this one, that one, or just get yourself some sort of external mic. Try not to use the mic that already comes with the iPhone, because even though that one's really good, and I highly recommend you use the phone one if you're at home, like where it's completely quiet. Then you could by all means use that one. It's already there. It's very quick and easy. You can just record straight into the phone, and you don't have to connect anything. You don't have to make sure that your mics are charged or anything, because some like these, you got to charge them up. But your phone is already there. You can just record straight into it. So you could use that one. However, I only recommend you use that one if you're at home where it's completely quiet, nobody's talking, there's absolutely no sound going on. Kind of like right here, like we're in here. I could very easily just use the mic here on the phone, but I still want to use this one just because I think it's better quality at the end of the day. So if it matters to you, if it matters like the type of quality that you have, that you're using like something that sounds crisp, that sounds good, professional, then definitely get yourself a mic like this. You could also use it to do like videos like these where you're just talking into the camera. You could use it for, maybe you're interviewing. I've seen content where, perhaps you go and you want to mic up the owner, you want to ask him some questions, ask him, her some questions. So then you mic them up, and then you start asking them questions, and then they're able to speak freely. They're able to speak very comfortably because you just attach it to them, and then they just kind of, they answer your questions. Perhaps you can have them work, make the food itself as they're talking as well. And that's a pretty good piece of content as well to do. And so you have that option as well. However, if you didn't have that mic, it would be a little bit hard to do content like that, especially if you're just going to be using the mic on your phone. It'll be very hard to capture that because, if they're cooking up stuff and you're trying to capture their voice at the same time, there's just a lot of sound going on. It's not going to, the mic on the phone is not going to do a very good job of isolating the person's voice from whatever's going on around them. And then there's your voice as well. And it's just going to be a disaster. Trust me, I've done that before. And I myself, I consider myself an audio engineer type of deal because I have done and worked with music, which I'll be talking about in a little bit, but I have worked with music before. So I have worked with music software and I have worked with voices and I have worked with extracting voices and cleaning them up and stuff like that. So yeah, I've tried to do that with this and it just, trust me, it's just not worth it. At the end of the day, it takes too much work. And at the end, it doesn't even clean it as much. You can still kind of hear, if you really pay attention, you'll still kind of hear everything's all over the place. And it just takes too much time in order to level things up. And, if you're doing paid work, obviously it might be a little bit worth it. If for some reason you forgot your mic and you still got to do this, if it's paid, obviously it's worth your time. But if you're not even getting paid for it, this just takes a little too long to be cleaning up the audio like that. So it's just not worth it. Just get a mic. That way you're able to capture the sound properly. Another thing that I would really consider you guys doing, and this is probably something that maybe you guys do all the time, or maybe you guys don't even think about it because it's such a simple thing, but always clean your lenses. You probably keep your phone somewhere where, whether it's in your pocket, maybe it's in a bag or something, but there is a chance that somewhere, somehow, you might dirty your lenses here and there. It might come across something where, a little smudge might get on it. And sometimes you don't notice that and you're pulling up to the place, you're already starting to film and then everything's looking all weird, and you're like, wow, what's going on? You probably think that is the screen of your phone, that the one that's dirty. And so you start to clean the screen and you're like, wow, everything looks weird, and probably you think it's the environment, man. Maybe there's a lot of human in the air or something, so you start to think that maybe it's that, but the thing is, at the end of the day, it's probably none of those. And it's probably your lens that you need to clean. So make sure you clean those. Obviously clean the screen as well. That way everything's clean, everything's sharp. You're getting the proper visuals. You're getting the proper footage, and you're getting the best footage possible. That's clean and everything that looks really good. So that's definitely something that you want to keep in mind. So definitely keep that in mind. Make sure you're getting that through. Make sure that's happening. And yeah, as far as content creation goes, as far as getting the proper shots, definitely, if you do all those things that I just told you right now, you will take your content to the next level. It's going to look really great. But at the end of the day, keep it in mind, the best tip that I can give you is to always keep your content, varied. Try to vary the shots. Try not to keep everything too simple. Like I said, switch on between close up, wide shot. Maybe you have a shot of somebody, the owner talking. Then you switch to something more slow-mo, cinematic. Maybe you have you can play around with these things as well. You can play around with the color grading, maybe there's one part of the place that's really color graded and there's the other one that's a little sad, you're trying to show a distinction or something like that. Or, I don't know, play around with the movement of your phone, maybe you want to get something like this, you want to go all around the food. Maybe you want to do a pull out. Maybe you want to do I don't know, you want to, something like that, you can, that's why I said, try not to use the gimbal, but you could also use the gimbal. You can use the gimbal for certain shots and then you could do handheld with other shots. And that way you can keep your content all kind of diverse. All the shots are really diverse. And so, like I said, even the smudging of the lens itself, you could always smudge the lens on purpose in order to show a certain shot. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing at the end of the day. It's a bad thing if you don't know if you don't know that it's smudged and you're not trying to get that kind of footage. But if you're purposefully trying to get a footage where it looks kind of smudged, it looks kind of vintagey, old school type of deal, then maybe you can get a little smudge in there, that could really help out, You could switch also with the lighting. You could use your light for certain shots, and then you can maybe just not use the light at all. I've been to places where certain settings, certain shots, they just look better without the light, because if you use the natural light, it can create a certain shadow, can create a certain mood. If I put the light on there, then it kind of looks like a little bit different. It gives a different mood, and probably not the mood that you're going for as far as like what you're creating. So you have to keep these things in mind at the end of the day, but play around with everything. Everything is fair game as long as you know what you're doing. The frames per second as well. Play with that. Maybe you only want to use 30, maybe you want to use 60. You want to integrate that slow-mo at the end of the day. Maybe you don't want that slow-mo. Maybe you want that cinematic look for just like a few shots, so you use that. Or maybe you want to use slow-mo, like there's the actual slow-mo option too, like on the phone. And most phones already have a slow-mo as well, where you get to use you get to reduce the frames per second. It's really cool as well. So you can do that as well. And you can do it that way as well. So definitely keep that in mind. At the end of the day, it really is up to you. It really depends like how you want to approach this, whatever your vision is as far as like your content creation, but always keep it that way. And then eventually, as you practice more, you'll start to develop a personal style, something that you like for yourself. And eventually you're going to develop a formula where it's like, okay, I want to use all these shots in all my videos. And that's going to be like the Louis formula, right? The foodie filmmaker formula, or whatever your foodie name is, that's your formula. That's your way of shooting. You always want to integrate those certain elements into your videos. That way people know when they see a video like that, they know that's a video from you, because only you would create something like that. So there you have it. So that's basically like the visual part of creating content. Let's see. We can go into things like storytelling as well. I kind of went into it a little bit, but always have like a vision. You always have like an idea. Always have like some sort of like whether it's it may be a story, or it might be like like a certain like sequence, where you want this thing to happen first, and this thing, and this thing, and this thing, right? So a lot of creators develop that throughout time, where they're like, at first, it's all random, they start off with like them eating, and then they go into the restaurant. Some people just start straight from the restaurant. Some people start from like, they want to start like with a behind the scenes type of a scene. Sometimes you want to do like a raw footage type of deal, where like they'll start the video with raw footage. They'll show like kind of like a little bit behind the scenes, or something that technically you're not supposed to see, but it's kind of like a disclosed type of footage. You're seeing like unreleased footage, for the first 6 seconds in order to kind of hook you, and then they'll go into the actual video where everything's clean, polished, and everything. But the first couple seconds is just like raw footage. It looks bad, and it captures your attention, because you're like, wait a second, did this person really just upload like raw footage onto social media like that? Like, did they not bother to really like clean that up or something? But then you realize that was made intentionally. Like I said, you could do things like these intentionally, where you just completely throw raw footage up there. As long as, like I said, it's intentional, what you're doing. It's not something that is accidental, where you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't want to leave that, raw footage in there. I've done that before. Sometimes I'm editing, I forget to kind of look back, and this is something that you should always do with your content. Always, before you're about to export, make sure you take a look at your video, take a look at it 2-3 times, look through the whole thing and see if that's exactly what you're going for, because sometimes you do like, maybe you're cutting stuff, you're cutting clips, and sometimes you cut clips and you forget to delete some of them. So then, some of them do stay there. And then like, I've had times where I upload, and then I see that, I forgot to check. And then like, I see that there's like a little chunk of like 4 or 5 seconds that's not supposed to be in there. I was supposed to completely cut that out. And for some reason it just ended there. So now it looks weird. Like it just, like the sequence, the story is just not aligning anymore, because that shot is in there. So then, that's not good, because then that will break the viewer's attention, and also it'll make the viewer think that, like, what's going on? Like, you had something good going, and then there's that shot right there. Like, come on, like, you couldn't have let that one slide. Or like, they think that you did that on purpose. And so if it wasn't done on purpose, then that's a big deal. So you don't want that happening. So definitely make sure that you pay attention when you're doing that. When you're storytelling, make sure that, obviously, you have your story, you have your idea, go in there, shoot, however you're going to shoot. Make sure you have, like I spoke about earlier, make sure you have everything that you need in order to create that kind of a story. Make sure as far as like your phone is ready, it has the proper settings to execute certain shots. Make sure you have your lighting properly. If you're going to need mics, make sure you have those. If you're going to need a tripod, if you're going to need a gimbal, make sure you have those as well. Whatever it is that you're going to need, make sure that you have that ready to go. That way you're able to execute. Once you get there, you already know what to do. You can get right into it, and you're not wasting time just trying to scramble, trying to figure out how you can do this and stuff like that. So you have everything planned out already. And yeah, as far as like your story goes, it always works out better if you have some sort of plan like that. I have said this in the podcast, but sometimes I do go in like that. I do go in, with a blank mind. Sometimes I don't have any ideas. Sometimes my creativity isn't really there. So then, what ends up happening is that I just kind of, I just jump in and I hope for the best. And sometimes you will have to do that just because perhaps you already scheduled, you schedule ahead of time. And when the day comes, you're just like, what am I going to do? Like I actually have no idea what I'm going to do with the shoot, but you still got to go and do it because you're rescheduled. And sure, you could cancel, but it's not the most formal thing to be doing, canceling, especially if it took this long. Sometimes you got to schedule like 1-2 months ahead. And so the last thing you want to do is to cancel on the restaurant because they're counting on you. They probably scheduled you in. They're reserving that day specifically for you. Probably have other influencers coming in. And so, yeah, so it kind of, it's not a very professional thing to do. That restaurant may be connected with other restaurants and they may let the other restaurants know like, hey, you know what? I scheduled this person. At the end of the day, they just decided to cancel and everything. And I know that a lot of creators are like, oh, well, I need to prioritize my rest, my mental health or stuff like that, right? So if it is something serious, obviously, cancel it. But if you can still kind of just push through, I would suggest just push through and just try to get that out there. If you want to let the place know like, hey, you know what, I'm not feeling so well, can I postpone it? Sometimes you can go ahead and talk to them and be like, hey, can I postpone it? Can I do it some other day? If it's not possible, then I'll just come through anyway, make it happen, whatever, but I always try to make the collab happen if it's already been scheduled. But yeah, so just show up, do your thing, whether you have the story or not, and just try to develop something that makes sense. Whatever comes up to you in the moment or whatever you have planned, make sure you execute that. And then in the editing stage, make sure you keep the same vision. But also, if you feel the need to improvise while you're editing everything, make sure that you do that as well. I always allow creativity to kind of let itself manifest, whether it's on the spot where I'm filming or whether it's in the editing app where I'm editing and I'm coming up with ideas. I'm looking at the footage. I'm like, hey, you know what? Maybe it'd be cool if maybe I slow-mo that, I think it'd look cool. That wasn't part of the plan, but I'm going to do it anyway, because it's coming up on the spot, and if it looks good, it looks good. Why not, make it happen. And so that's as far as like storytelling goes. Having a story can definitely help your whole footage have a cohesive order of sequence, and it can make the viewer kind of understand your content a little bit better, as opposed to it being like random, being all over the place, not really having any specific goal. And so, yeah, let me go ahead and keep looking at here. Let's see what else we can talk about before I kind of end this. My voice is actually dying. I didn't know how tough this was going to be actually, but ooh, it's a little hot in here as well. So I'm feeling a little bit hot in here. Oof, I'm sweating. I'm sweating a little bit too. I probably shouldn't have worn this sweater, but I thought I'm going to look cool, in the video. But, man, it's probably not a good idea. Next time I do one of these, I'm going to take my sweater off. I'm just going to do it with my shirt because this is a little too hot in here. But yeah, so we have that. A niche versus variety content. So a lot of people like to do the niche thing where they're very selective as far as like what kind of content they want to make and what kind of restaurants they want to work with. So In the food industry, you have things like you can just do very luxury restaurants where that's your thing and that's all you're going to do because you want your audience to just be people who are looking for luxury restaurants. So perhaps you go on that direction. Maybe you have like things like night markets where you just want to be a night market creator where you just go to all these night markets and you basically, you show your audience the vibe, how cool it is, how many vendors there is, and pretty much that's your content, right? You want to highlight all these vendors, the night market vibe and everything. So there's that route you can go. You can go into like fast food, where all you do is review fast food and all the fast food joints that there's out there. And then you have things like maybe you just want to do coffee, you just want to do coffee shops. Maybe you want to do matcha, you just want to do matcha places, So you have all those options, right? Where you can go very niche. You can select your specific type of a place that you want to review and you just stick to that, right? So should you do that or should you go in the opposite direction, which is what I do. So if you go on my page, I do everything. I do Korean barbecue, matcha, coffee, night markets, luxury restaurants, rooftop restaurants, underground restaurants, basement restaurants. I'll do like, whatever, I'll do fast food sometimes too, even though there's certain people who are not very big fans of me when I do fast food. I just don't do it as often, but trust me, I'm a fast food eater as well. I love fast food. Specifically McDonald's. A lot of people know that I love McDonald's. Yes, I know that it's bad for you and everything, but obviously I'm not eating McDonald's every single day, but I do eat it once in a while. Whenever I get a chance, whenever I'm around, whenever I don't have time to go anywhere else, I'm in a hurry, I still eat this normal food, like McDonald's and stuff like that because it's good. I like it. It's good. It's productive. I mean, it's not productive, but it's something that I could get really quick, get a quick bite and then continue doing whatever it is that I'm doing. And, yes, there are studies and things that say that McDonald's can affect your mood. It could affect your energy and stuff like that. To be fair, I think it could do that, but I think that's a more long-term type of effect than it is a short-term. So if you go and you eat a meal, and plus, it will make a big, difference, obviously, if you are a very clean and healthy eater, and then all of a sudden you go and you eat McDonald's. So it will definitely make a really big impact then. But if you have a very balanced diet where you eat fast food, you eat unhealthy food, and then you eat some healthy food too, and you're always kind of eating a little bit of both all the time, then eating McDonald's is not really going to make a big difference. You're kind of just used to it already, and so it won't really make a big difference unless, of course, you're eating a little too much. Then you're probably going to start feeling a little bit of something. It's probably going to start showing too. So there's that. But at the end of the day, should you do niche content or should you do varied content? So the thing is that there's advantages to both, obviously, whatever your goal is. So if you do see yourself maybe you just want to do luxury restaurants and eventually I don't know, you want to just work with luxury restaurants, maybe you want to start off with just your local luxury restaurants and then eventually you want to be reviewing other luxury restaurants in other countries and everything, and that's kind of your thing. Eventually you want to get to the most prestigious, the most famous luxury restaurant. That's your goal. You want to collaborate with them, you want to get paid by them as well and everything, then go ahead and do that. But if you just want to become an overall great content creator in the food industry, then diversifying, I think, is the great way to go because, you can learn so much from going to the luxury restaurants, going to the night markets. Everything kind of has its own way of being shot and filmed and everything. And so for you to kind of take the vibe of a luxury restaurant, take the vibe of a night market, capturing both is a little bit different. But if you learn how to capture both, then, you become a more solidified, well-rounded content creator at the end of the day, which can enhance your creativity. It can enhance your range of creativity, your range of being able to do things as a content creator. So it gives you that flexibility to kind of go in any direction that you want, and you'll have that extra experience as well. Whatever it is that you do get to choose at the end, maybe you do diversify, and at the end you decide hey, you know what, I think I'm just going to stick to the night markets because the night markets are really cool. I love them. I think I really do fit in there. I love the vibe and I just want to be part of that for a very long time. long term. So then you can go ahead and just stick to that, but you could also use the experience that you acquired by filming at luxury restaurants, and you could bring that to the table when you're filming night markets. You can give the night markets a very pristine look, even though they are night markets at the end of the day, where they're more like casual and stuff. But if you're able to kind of highlight them in a way where it's like they look like they're really good, that kind of gives you a boost as far as like, the way you're able to create content, as opposed to the person who just does that, who just does night markets, that's all they really know. However, there's that advantage of like, if that's all you know, then you will be really, really good at night market content, which could obviously give you an advantage if you're looking for a night market deal. It could give you an advantage over the person who's diversifying, because there you have like a whole range of experience there, while as opposed to you just specialize in that. So that can give you a boost if that's kind of what you're going after. But yeah. So that's how you do it. I'm afraid we are reaching the end of the masterclass. Yes. That is it. I am dying. As you can hear, like my voice has been dying this whole time. I've been pushing it, but it's coming to an end. I'm actually about to hop into an interview right now. Not going to say with who, but I am hopping into an interview. Hopefully, we get a little bit of a job here and there, be able to work with somebody really, really special. But so I have to pretty much call it right now. So thank you so much to everybody for watching this masterclass. I hope you guys learned a lot. If you guys want me to continue making masterclasses like these, where like I'm gonna really specialize and hone in and give you strategies that you can apply today, make sure you let me know down in the description. Make sure you let me know in my DMs. Slide through. All my links are going to be down below. And other than that, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Foodie Filmmaker. Make sure you go watch the podcast. The Foodie Filmmaker podcast. I was about to say the name of my own podcast. The Foodie Filmmaker podcast. Make sure you go and watch it. The playlist is somewhere here on my channel. But yeah, anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this masterclass, and I'll see you guys in the next one.